Well, fresh off President Obama's visit to Wisconsin, Governor Scott Walker is joining us this morning.
And Governor, thank you so much for joining us today. And we have a lot of issues we want to talk to you about. First of all, you had a conversation with President Obama about this propane crisis here in Wisconsin. And his staff had talked to you before that visit, and you were able to get some great things for Wisconsin.
Yeah, Valerie Jarrett is the senior advisor to the president, longtime friend and advisor, has gone with him from Chicago all the way through his presidency. Called me about an hour before, walked through everything we had on our list. She and the team that they had from the White House were great. And so really my conversation when the president came down off Air Force One was to thank him for his staff stepping up. And he said, let us know if there's anything more. So there are a few things after meeting or calling other governors around the Midwest yesterday we're going to follow up on today. But by and large, the federal government stepped up and helped us out. So
primarily releasing, what, $14 million in funds?
Right. It's money that will help low-income individuals get assistance, because you think about it, just a few months ago, it was about $1.40 a gallon. It's in some cases up to $5 to $6 a gallon over the last few weeks. That's a huge hit, not only for low income, but for other folks. So we put $8 million in. They have $14 million more from the federal government. That will help assist individuals who really are having a hard time paying for it, let alone getting it.
You know, Governor, as we look at the video of your greeting with the president there, it's interesting, the two of you, obviously political rivals. You have great political differences, but you appear to have the kind of relationship. I mean, you were at the White House, what, just a few weeks ago,
2 weeks ago,
talking about these sort of cooperative things. You appear to have the kind of relationship, both of you, that you can call each other and have these conversations.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, he's the president. Obviously, you know, when I differ with him, I'll let people know, but people always ask, what do you talk about? I've greeted him a couple times before. I said, we usually kid about the Bears and the Packers if it's in season, but more than anything, he's the president, I'm the governor. It doesn't matter what party. At some points, you just got to stand up and lead. And so working on this, issues like this propane crisis are critically important. I was honored a couple weeks ago to be there as part of the leadership of the National Governors Association, 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. And again, a lot of those issues we talk about aren't partisan. They're just issues that are important here in the States.
What is your take on the jobs initiative that the president highlighted here? You need jobs to reach your 250,000 jobs goal that you set for your term. On the other hand, some Republicans are criticizing the approach that the president is taking for this job training.
You know, worker training in general is something I mentioned even a few weeks ago that I said most of us Republicans would stand up and cheer. And I have been supportive in the past, and I'm supportive of what he said yesterday about the need to focus job training, particularly in the skilled trades areas where we have tremendous opportunities, advanced manufacturing, IT techs, healthcare positions, and others. It's why we put $100 million in our budget to do that. Not only to fill jobs, but for a lot of our employers here in Wisconsin, they'd add more jobs. They'd take on more work if only they had the certainty they could fill those positions. So the president wants to work with the states and more importantly, employers to do that. I'm going to be supportive.
What's the onus, Governor, that you put on those companies to perhaps train the workers themselves? I mean, I was leading a discussion on Facebook, and people who worked for Harley-Davidson years ago, or my grandfather worked for Falk. Guys used to show up at the back door and start as a sweeper, and then the companies trained them on their dime, instead of coming to the taxpayers and saying, hey, you need to fund a job training program for my business.
Well, a lot of these just aren't just specific to that. I mean, if you need a high-skilled welder, there are a lot of employers who will do that, even though I think, you know, when you think about broadcast school or you think folks who go into law or medicine, we don't expect the hospital to just take somebody off the street and train them to be a doctor. In this case, there's a lot of high-skilled craftsmen and women positions that we desperately need and that pay well. That's the other thing to remember is these are not the kind of jobs we talked about when our parents and grandparents were in manufacturing. These are jobs that pay exceptionally well. These are careers. But we need to get more people in, and part of it is not only providing the training, but actually encouraging young people to take on those jobs. I point out to kids all the time, manufacturing jobs pay about 25% higher than most jobs in the state. As I mentioned the other night, we need to honor our sons and daughters who choose to be high-skilled welders or CNC operators or fabricators as much as we do those who choose to be doctors or lawyers.
Okay, the question about running for president. Are you running for president?
Not even running for governor yet. I'll announce that in the spring. It's one of those where I love being the governor. It's one of the best jobs you could possibly have, not just in politics, but anywhere. I'm going to focus on being governor.
But I want to focus on that a little bit because Chris Christie's come under fire recently, and his approval ratings have just have tanked, if you want to, because of Bridgegate and other issues regarding his state. Does that national landscape at all change or factor into how you make a decision about what you will do?
No. I mean, in the end, I'm flattered. It's nice. I mean, the nice thing about being a governor when people talk about things like this here and nationally is it means we're doing a good job. You know, we created $1 billion surplus. We're putting $800 million back into the hands of the taxpayers. We're seeing more jobs. We're seeing higher income, personal income in the state. Those are all great things. It's a great story to tell about Wisconsin. I'm not finished. I want to continue to do that job here and help the people of the state do even better in the future.
And let me ask you finally, Governor, about the surplus. Something that you've come under fire from on the left on that is that they're criticizing you for creative bookkeeping. They're saying that we're going to run a deficit in the next budget to help create this surplus. What is your response to that?
Well, selective amnesia by those critics. 3 years ago, I inherited a $3.6 billion budget deficit. We turned it into a surplus. Actions speak louder than words. By any measure, the nonpartisan Legislative Fiscal Bureau points out we end this budget with a surplus. And if we continue to the next budget with just the very minimum growth that we've had over the last 10 years, which includes a couple of years of the recession, we'll actually have a $700 million surplus going into the next budget.
So you don't think it'll be a deficit in the next budget?
It's not. It's a surplus. I think they like to confuse the words in hopes that people will be confused. We took a deficit from Doyle, turned it into surplus. We took massive tax hikes from Doyle and turned it into nearly $2 billion worth of tax cuts. And we took massive job losses under my predecessor and turned them into 100,000 new jobs.
Broncos, Seahawks.
Broncos, I go with Peyton Manning. Although we got a connection to both.
Right.
Monty Hall, Monty Ball played for Wisconsin. Obviously, a great running back, and Russell Wilson, a tremendous asset his senior year with Wisconsin. In the end, I go with Peyton.
Anything you can do about the weather?
We'll
talk about that in the break. Is there an executive order? Some sort of action you can take? It's a tough winter.
Thanks so much,
no kidding.
Governor.
Good to
Always
be with you
enjoy
guys.
your time. Thank you very much.